Hi, my name's Eddie Heffler. I'm with HCA 701 class. I'm with Group 1. We're supporting the debate that Trump's changes to insurance laws will expand insurance for U.S. citizens. So as a brief review, the Obama administration passed the Affordable Care Act in 2010. 2014 was the first year of enrollment. Enrollment never met expectations. 2016, President Obama's Department of Health and Human Services restricted short-term AHPs and other insurance alternatives to the Affordable Care Act exchange, hoping it would boost exchange purchases. In 2018, Trump reverses the restrictions put on the alternative plans, and in 2019, prices start dropping on the Affordable Care Act exchange for the first time. So Affordable Care Act projections versus actuals. So over here on the right are the actual numbers. You can see the Congressional Budget Office was more conservative than the CMS in terms of the predicted number of people that would be enrolling. The CBO was right on the money at 8 million for 2014. Then 2015, only 11.2 million people enrolled. And in 2016, 12.7 million people enrolled. This is half of what was initially projected by both those services. So in 2016, the Obama administration decided to make some modifications. They wanted to force more people into the Obamacare exchanges. So what they did is they shortened the maximum duration of short-term plans from 1 year to 3 months, and they also banned renewal guarantees for short-term plans. So if someone had a renewal guarantee, even if you forced them into a 3-month plan, but they were guaranteed they could renew it up to 3 times, they knew they were still good for a whole year. The problem is if someone has a short-term plan that's good for 3 months, and something happens to them physically, they don't have any guarantee on renewal, and then they may also be out of the enrollment period for the Affordable Care Act, and that could become a huge problem for them. All of a sudden they're stuck with no coverage and a medical problem, so that kind of made people shy away from the short-term plans. So enrollment in short-term plans dropped by over 33%. However, not all these people bought from the Affordable Care Act exchanges. So the hope was, of course, that they were all going to come in here and they were going to funnel into the exchange market. However, there's a lot of people that really couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford the Affordable Care Act exchange plans to begin with, and they were only buying the short-term insurance plans because they weren't as comprehensive, they were a lot less expensive, and they wanted to avoid paying the individual mandate penalty every year on their taxes. So they had the short-term plans because at least, like I said, they had some coverage, they wouldn't have to pay a penalty. Now they felt like, well, you know what, I may as well just go ahead and pay that mandate penalty every year. There's no use to even keep the short-term plans because, you know, it's just too much of a hassle. They're too short-term. So the Trump administration made some changes. In October 2017, Trump gives executive order to the Department of Health and Human Services to change its policies on short-term plans, association health plans, and health reimbursement arrangements. February 20th, 2018, the HHS announced the upcoming changes to those plans. So it's going to allow them, the short-term plans and everything mentioned above, to go into 12 months again. And they can actually offer renewal guarantees. Now, just so you're aware, someone who has a renewal guarantee, they pay a higher monthly premium because of the chance that if you go to renew, something could happen to you than you would without the renewal guarantee. But at the same time, you know, you're locked in. So now if you have a plan that's good for a year, and you have like 2 or 3 guaranteed renewals, even though you're paying a higher premium, you know, you've got that premium locked in for a few years. And that, of course, made it more attractive to some people in the Affordable Care Act, where prices started rising every year, and people were concerned about prices there. So pros and cons. Opponents of the changes by the Trump administration said more people will have insurance that isn't as good. The Affordable Care Act exchange insurance plans were more comprehensive. They covered a lot more things, but they were also more expensive. So the argument was that if people leave that exchange and go and buy these short-term plans, you know, they're not going to have as good insurance, and if they run into any major problems, you know, it could be a huge problem for them. They could end up in serious debt. When people leave the Obamacare exchanges, it's going to drive up the Affordable Care Act exchange prices for those who remain, is what a lot of people argued also. So what happens is you know, the people who are seriously ill, sick, maybe were born with something that's causing them to need health care on a regular basis, those people are forced to stay inside Obamacare plans. And the reason being is they were comprehensive, and those people needed that comprehensive insurance. So the theory was that the people who didn't need as comprehensive insurance, the younger, healthier people, might leave to get those short-term exchange plans that they can just do year after year on the short term to save money, because they weren't really using their insurance much anyways. Well, when that would happen, the percentage of people inside the Affordable Care Act plans, the comprehensive plans, the percentage of sick people would actually go up. And you would need more services per person as the healthy people left, and that would continue to drive up prices even more. And finally, the opponents said that, Trump is just doing this to try and kill Obamacare to fulfill his campaign promises. Trump's not really trying to help people. One of the things they did as the Trump administration helped get rid of the individual mandate, which allowed people to stop dropping out, which of course, in the beginning drove prices up. And now they're saying he's trying to do this again to drive prices up too, so that more and more people will eventually have to drop out of Obamacare and the prices will go up. And he's just trying to make the plan implode. This is his way around it because the Republicans in Congress and actually the House, but not the Senate. The Senate did not want to overturn Affordable Care Act. They just thought it might be too much of a headache and too unpopular. So they felt that Trump was just trying to kill this plan through the back door if he couldn't get Congress to just overturn it outright. So proponents said that, well, this will actually reduce the total number of uninsured out there. So maybe everybody doesn't have, as comprehensive coverage as the Affordable Care Plan, but it will make healthcare affordable for those who can't afford it on the Affordable Care Act exchanges. So some insurance is better than no insurance was the theory. If someone's not going to have insurance or a short-term plan, we're better off offering them a short-term plan that offers a year. And finally, some people argued that increased competition should drive insurance prices down. And the Affordable Care Act went through, as I mentioned, the Obama administration made changes, and they were trying to force everyone out of every option other than going to the Affordable Care Act exchanges to buy insurance. And in some places, there were very few plans or just one plan available. And so there's no competition. And so when there's no competition, businesses can pretty much charge almost anything they want. So the theory was if all of a sudden these companies that offer the exchange plans now actually had to compete with a lot more short-term plan options and other non-exchange options, that this would make them become more competitive, to get people to purchase their services, and could potentially actually drive the Affordable Care Act exchange price. So prices kept going up prior to Trump's changes. If you'll notice here on the right first, there's a chart shows the individual premiums went up well over 50%. Individual deductibles went up over $1,000 a year between 2013 and 2016. 2013 was the last year before the Affordable Care Act exchanges took place. Family premiums almost doubled. Family deductibles went up by thousands of dollars. So, one of the things Trump also emphasized a lot was in 2008, Barack Obama, when he was campaigning, promised that, the Affordable Care Act, which didn't have a name then, but his insurance plan would drive prices down for everyone. And in fact, it ended up drive pricing up, which it did. So after the Trump changes, there was an increased enrollment in the short-term plans, as everyone expected. There was also a decreased enrollment in the Affordable Care Act plans, but there was a decreased enrollment in the Affordable Care Act plans even before the changes in the short-term plans took effect. People were already starting to drop out of the plan. Prices on the exchanges were rising far more than initially predicted, as I showed you here, and they actually continued to rise 2017, 2018. So enrollment dropped in the Affordable Care Act as people stopped shopping for plans or could no longer afford them. So they asked here, what's the main reason you did not get health insurance through the marketplace? 36% said they didn't think they could afford the insurance in the marketplace. Another 8% said they did not think they'll be eligible for health insurance. And what they really meant by that is wouldn't be eligible for any help in covering the cost of the health insurance. And 7% actually said they were not aware of the marketplace. But over here, these are the people who lost their coverage that were previously covered through the Affordable Care Act individual market. And the main concerns were primarily affordability. So 34% said they couldn't afford to continue to pay for a health plan that they had there, so they dropped out. Another 15% said they lost or changed jobs, which is 49%. They couldn't afford or lost or changed jobs. But then over here, 8% said they didn't pay their premium on time, which is they really couldn't afford it either. I mean, obviously, if they could afford the premium, they would have made the payments on time. And then finally, 7% here said that the plan that they liked was no longer being offered on the exchange. It's not uncommon that year to year plans would change. What was covered was changed, and the prices were changing rapidly. So in essence, if you take these reasons right here, over 2/3 of the people that dropped out that gave reasons, had nothing to do with the Trump administration changes to the short-term plans. So the net results post-Trump era changes. So the short-term enrollment in insurance plans increased. The Affordable Care Act plan enrollees continued to decrease. They're already decreasing. However, the expected increase in Affordable Care Act monthly premiums because this never materialized. The Affordable Care Act prices actually went down in 2019 for the first time ever since the Affordable Care Act marketplace started. In 2019, the average family coverage went down by $14 a month, but also the average deductibles and out-of-pocket expenses went down by almost $1,000 a year, which is an incredible difference. So in conclusion, the Trump administration changes to health insurance increased the number of insured compared to what would have been without the changes.